Cold calling is its own beast. The leads are a lot less motivated than mail, and there's a lot more nurturing. I know that a year out from now, I'm going to have a really nice pipeline, really seasoned, and I'll have a lot more consistent deal flow.
The lead today does not mean like if I call them back, like it's done in your mind, obviously. That's what it shouldn't be. Like that's a lead forever until you close them.
I had 2 lots that I bought from this lady. My initial offer was $20K. It says it's 5 acres, but it's definitely not 5 acres. I offered her 2 grand. She ended up saying yes and sold both of them for cumulative like 17 grand.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm joined today by one of our students, Nolan Lukasic. Really cool story. Been in the business about a year. Nolan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and I like having people on the podcast. I mean, all different. I like people who have built land business for the last 10 years. You're someone who's been in the business about a year, really good background, and you're kind of in the thick of things in terms of scaling your business up right now. So I think it's going to be a very relatable podcast. And for people who are in the business right now, then also people looking to get into it. It's like you're only a year out potentially being where Nolan is today. But let's just first talk, Nolan, about how you got into land flipping, land investing.
So, um, I was listening to a podcast. It was Brian Lubin's Action Academy. I do remember the episode. It was Landon Blue. I think that episode fired up a lot of people. Um, Probably listened to it like half a dozen times, trying to pick out key takeaways and things like that. But I was kind of on the fence for about 6 months as I was drop shipping at the time. I had a business going in drop shipping for a year and a half, high ticket, and was kind of on the fence about switching to land, staying in, looking at land and the skills that I would pick up in land, and it just better aligned with what I wanted to do in real estate. Um, I sold real estate part time as well for a year prior to that, and had kind of always had that interest. But anyways, about 6 months later, I got started. Messaging a couple guys in the group, like Roy Cantu was one. Main concern about the time commitment and whether or not I could really do it. And Roy had said like, "Hey, yeah, you can do it. Here's a realistic expectation for the amount of time you'll need to put in." So, um, kind of took some cash that I had made drop shipping and pulled the trigger on land with your course.
So this was December of last year. So was that you said podcasts and stuff? How long were you consuming content like while you're drop shipping like about land? Was it a year before that you like first heard about land? Was it that podcast you first heard about land?
So yeah, I was at podcast about 6 months before I pulled the trigger. Um, I wasn't actively like pursuing info on land. I was involved in a partnership, and so like I also had some commitments to these guys in moving the drop shipping business forward. Maybe about 3 or 4 months down the road, I really just started like I couldn't really get land out of my head. Um, I wanted to be in real estate. I wanted to build my skills on the phone. I wanted to negotiate and learn acquisitions because I could see that really fueling like my business interest down the road. And drop shipping was kind of like you're more in the background systems, but a lot of introverted people go to drop shipping. And I kind of wanted to get into something that would force me to build that sales muscle that I saw as being like way more valuable.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's a higher ticket thing than, I mean, there is high ticket drop shipping, but I don't think there's many people making 30, 40, $50,000 on single drop ship sales or whatever you want to say. So what did that look like when you first got started? Was it like a lot of consuming content when you first got into the course? Or was it like, are you I want to figure things out by making mistakes type of person?
So I'm a pretty analytical guy, and I know that it's like I need to counteract that. So I was really focused on taking action. And I went in with the coaching program, by the way, which is also really focused on like, hey, here's your roadmap. It's very action oriented. That's what I wanted. I wanted to move fast. So I got through the course in maybe like a week to 10 days, and I had mail out the door, like maybe 4,000 pieces in about 2 weeks. So I remember it was like the day after Christmas, I pushed send on mail for the first time. And I didn't really have a hot start, but yeah, that's as far as getting into education and getting started.
So when you say you didn't have a hot start, was it lack of calls? Was it just weird around the holidays? What do you attribute to, or is it just like you're doing something brand new and you made some mistakes? What did that look like?
I don't really feel like I made a lot of mistakes. Like I made some of the merging mistakes in Excel, like a lot of people do. Not any big notable ones. I just think it took time for me to work my leads. So I was 13,000 mailers out. I was 3 months in, had no contracts, and I was kind of scratching my head, like wondering what's going on, talking to a lot of people. But for me, I really think it was just like having leads in the pipeline, working those leads because it was, I don't know, maybe 4 months later, I ended up getting like 4 contracts, 4 or 5 contracts. So a lot of those were people from my first campaigns. Like I'm still working leads from my first campaign, one lady that I know I will convert. Um, so I just think the leads I got weren't like ready to go. They just took a lot of nurturing.
Credit to you though for sticking to those leads because so many people are like a no the first conversation is a no forever essentially. And they're not truly working pipeline. So it's really cool to hear that you sent 13,000 mailers. Like, yeah, a lot of people would have just like, okay, keep sending more marketing. They'd quit or whatever. And you're like, I have people in the pipeline. So during that time period, like you're working these people, 13,000 mailers. Let's first like talk about what's the time frame of that. So Christmas, you started sending mail. When did you send your 13,000 mailers?
Like in that first 3 months. So I was doing about 4,500, 5,000 a month.
Got it. And talk about once you, so when did you get your first deal under contract, buy your first deal?
Um, Might have been like April.
Yeah. So were you at a stopping point with sending marketing at this point, or were you just continually being consistent? Because you said you're 13,000 in, and obviously like you're 10, $15,000 in the hole, whatever you want to say. And it's I don't know, I want to say it's easy to like quit. It's easy to lose belief. At that point, were you continually sending marketing as you were working these older leads as well?
Yeah, I never stopped sending marketing. Aside from actually right now, I have a little pause on my marketing, which we can talk about later. But no, I kept the mail ripping. I tried different things. Like I bought the home mailer machine that Nick had. I was pumping out 2,500 of those a month. Um, on my mindset, I kind of brought some cash over from drop shipping, so I was starting with a little bit of bankroll, nothing insane. But in my mind, I was gonna go until I ran out of money. And once I ran out of money, I was gonna hop on Zillow, call through old lists. Like I was gonna find a way to get a deal, whether there was money remaining or not. So
That's awesome. You said you're analytical. I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, like some of the being analytical kind of gave you a real belief in this business. Like you didn't just get into this business like one night, you know what I mean? You didn't sleep on it, then like, yeah, this is for me. Like it was a long decision getting into this business, which you can say like, okay, you should have made a decision to come into this business faster. But at the same time, like I believe that time it took you to get in this business, like really like I believe in this business. Is that true or am I crazy there?
the numbers definitely played a role in the belief for me. Because looking at like what Landon was pumping out and running the numbers of his deals in my head, I was like, there's no, really not any way I'm not gonna end up at least breaking even or making money. Like my margin to break even just seemed insanely large. Um, and so that did for sure drive my belief because like he's obviously a stud guy. I didn't really think I was gonna come in and do better than like the best guy I ever heard on the podcast, right? But I assume even if I did like 50% as well as this guy, my margins still look pretty good in land. So
And I think a lot of people like come in and just assume like if they just do the work or like there's people that landed with someone who just threw everything at this business. But there's people that like come in and they just don't perform as well. Like if you were someone who did not follow up with those leads, like who knows? So you seem like the type of person who's kind of like a blunt salesman. Like you don't try to beat around the bush, anything like that. Like you're just kind of like tell the sellers like this is what I can pay. This is what I can do. If this works, great. If not, like sorry, I just can't pay more or whatever. Is that kind of how you sell, or like what other strategies do you use for selling to sellers?
So I don't know how blunt I am. I am, thinking about who I'm talking to. Maybe they don't want to just get hit over the head. Maybe they are a more direct person, and I'll just lay it out like quick and dirty for them. Um, I do try and focus on being transparent. I don't BS people on the phone. I'm pretty open about what I'm trying to do. I was not great, and I'm still not great on the phone when I started out, and that was a big reason I think I had a slow start. Like I was taking leads for granted for sure. I actually had to reopen a lot of leads, which um, one of the ones I reopened, I converted to a contract. The biggest thing I try and focus on right now, I just try and be like a normal guy, approachable, try and build a little connection. And I really try and ask a lot of questions to understand like how I can make a deal um, benefit the seller. I try and put a lot of focus on them and how they benefit.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, problem solving for a seller, everything like that. That's a big thing that a lot of the most successful people are doing for sure. You talked about switching over to some home mailer stuff. Is that what you were like? What is your mark? I know you said you have a little bit of break right now in terms of marketing. So your first 3, 4 months, you did traditional 2-page letter, had some transition. Can you talk about just your marketing over the first 12 months? How has that changed? What are you currently doing today?
Yeah, so started out with mail through Rocket Print for like the first 3, maybe 4 months. That's where I was scratching my head looking at the number of mailers I had sent, what had come in. At that time, I didn't have any contracts, so I was like, oh, must be the mail. It's not me, right? Um, I pivoted to home mail because it sounded like Nick was like blowing up with that. And I had kind of regretted that later on because there was a big learning curve, a lag in the marketing. Um, like I think direct mail from home versus Rocket Print, you could be successful with either, but that consistency over time I think is really important. I stopped doing home mail just because I found, hey, this is not something I'm really going to be able to scale beyond like 2,500 of these a month. I mean, my wife would have a movie night like twice weekly where we would sit down and try and stuff like 500 envelopes, and which she likes. She likes watching movies. But like she actually just told me yesterday, like, hey, I never really liked doing that, just so you know. I was just doing that to support you. But I saw that wasn't going to be scalable. Um, a lot of people were talking about diminishing returns on mail. I was looking at text and I didn't like having to think about diminishing response rates and all the technology. So I settled on cold calling. That's where I've been for 3, 4 months now. And part of the reason I went to that was because with mail, um, like I felt like there was so much on the line where that 1 to 2, 3 serious leads calls in. I felt like it was too much pressure on me with my phone skills, where I felt like I could really develop my sales skills through cold calling and working a lot more leads. And it was a good balance time wise between like texting was more involved and building out teams where I could kind of easily hire an agency to cold call for me. So a lot went into that decision. Um, Cold calling is its own beast. I think the leads are a lot less motivated than mail, and there's a lot more nurturing. So I've already had the pull, like, oh man, I should go back to mail. Like I was getting contracts there, but I kind of already learned the lesson that comes with the lag from switching channels, and I know that a year out from now, I'm gonna have a really nice pipeline that's really seasoned, and I'll have a lot more consistent deal flow if I just stick out with cold calls. So that's where I'm at.
So you're kind of doubling down on the cold calling currently. Is that correct?
Yep.
What
And
are
I
your
had,
what are your volumes like?
in terms of leads coming in,
Reaching or like how many outbound calls for the team? I know you're probably outsourcing. How many outbound calls per day, per week, and then like yeah, what kind of leads are coming in?
tried a lot of agencies. Quite honestly, like to start out, I was not good about tracking their KPIs, and that was a major downfall because the agency that I had started, well, I didn't start with them. I signed a 6 month contract without trialing this agency. I didn't manage their KPIs well. I seriously regretted that. I ended up getting a refund from that due to like gross underperformance. I found out. But typically what that looks like, it's like 10,000 records I would send in a month. I'm going to get approximately 40 leads from that. Right now I have two vendors and I'm getting 80 leads, and I just got like way overwhelmed trying to do that with all the other plates I'm juggling. So that's why I said we would come back to right now I'm on a little pause. I'm going to try and get a lead manager on. Have them work through some old leads and then I'll get that started again.
So up till now, you've done everything yourself, other than like obviously the agency stuff. You've done everything in terms of lead management. No VA, no team currently. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, and that is for sure a weakness that I'm working on right now.
And your wife helped you, so you and your wife.
That's true.
But that's crazy. And yeah, 80 leads a month for yourself. And someone as some people can do that themselves, but the problem is you miss out on the follow up. And what you've done it sounds like what you've done so well in your business the first 12 months is the follow up, because a lead today does not mean like if I call them back, like it's done in your mind, obviously. And that's what it shouldn't be. Like that's a lead forever until you close them or until they say like, call me back in a year or something like that, whatever it looks like. But for you to really manage leads and like try to close as many deals as possible, you definitely 80 is a lot. So do you think that this volume you're at right now is like a full-time job for a lead manager and acquisition person?
80, I would say probably 80 to 120 leads a month is going to probably max out a lead manager. Yeah, full time.
So how many months of that did you do this volume where you got too many leads?
Mm. It was up and down because it was like, all right, I had an agency. I brought on this other agency. They were gross standard performing, and I was like, okay, I need to get my leads back up, so I'm going to rehire this other agency. And then the one I had contracted really just like turned on the faucet with leads because I think a lot of people were looking at them for underperformance. So that's when I got like grossly overwhelmed with my lead flow.
Real quick, guys, before we get back to the episode, if you're looking to get into land flipping, get your first land deal. We have helped so many people with our one-on-one coaching. If you guys want to schedule a call, learn more, hit the link below, landinvestingonline.com/consultations, schedule a call, and we'll help you out.
What so you talked about KPIs a lot with that. Like what KPIs are you tracking now that you've kind of learned like I need to be more on top of these guys? And that's what it's a really good point you bring up too. A lot of people that are trying to outsource something just think like even if you've outsourced to a realtor selling your property, like you cannot just like have your hands completely off. Like you need to manage whoever you hire, whether it's an in-house employee, an agency, a realtor. You got to make sure they're doing what you hired them to do. But talk about those KPIs that you're now tracking and that you like weren't tracking initially.
You make a good point. Like that's why I wanted the agencies so I didn't have to manage a team of cold callers, but you still like you got to manage your contractors. Um, so yeah, main thing, number one, and the most important one that anybody can probably track is leads and then offers. Just looking at the number of leads they're submitting. On top of that, I look at the number of calls and they're making, their connection rate. Um, that's pretty much all I track for them. So outbound calls, dials, connects, and leads.
And then how do you, I guess, what are your KPIs in your mind for an acquisition manager or lead manager you have coming in? Do you have those kind of in the back of your mind right now?
Yeah, and those are the KPIs I use to manage myself, which are, I mean, I do track leads on my board. I track um, is speed to lead. I track talk time. I track outbound calls, net leads, offers, verbal yes, and contract sent, contract signed.
That makes sense. So is it a percentage thing you're going to look out for them as well, like what their close percentage is?
Yeah, so there's a relational metric. So leads to net, I know that a net lead is somebody that I make contact with on the phone. I know my leads to net leads is like 75 to 80% typically. There's a relationship metric between each of um, those KPIs.
Nice. That's really cool. What's your background? Kind of, it sounds like are you a data person? What's your background coming into this business?
So project manager, W-2. I'm a military officer. I'm a logistics army officer. And then, yeah, the KPI stuff, you just pick up like really doing a lot of research online. Well, you should be tracking a lot of um, land influencer, guys talk about the importance of tracking that. So somebody basically said, "Hey, man, you don't know your numbers. What are you doing?" And that kind of flipped the switch for me. Oh, I really need to be looking at this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it makes a big difference in terms of scalability. Like if you know your numbers, you know when you can scale, you know when you're profitable, you know when you're not, everything like that. And so what does this first 12 months look like in terms of like profit, projected profit? I know you have some numbers that you wanted to share. Curious to see kind of what this first 12 months look like.
I've had 8 contracts. I've had to cancel 2 of those. One was basically just bad land. I'll just put it at that. Um, 6 properties. I've I've purchased 6. I've sold 5, or I've sold. No, I'm sorry. I've purchased 7. I've sold 5, and I have 2 on market. So, um, one of those sitting on market was my very first deal. I think it's sitting there because it's in an HOA. Like, there's really good
Mm.
demand for land in that market. I had a deal that was in there that was on market for 1 week and gone because it had no restrictions. People wanted it. This HOA is very restrictive, so lesson learned on that one. These are all pretty small flips. Like that first one was buy for 9,500, sell 20. I had to buy 11,500, sell for 28. That was gone in a week. I had a double close for 40, sell for 55. That was gone in a week. I had another buy that was buy for 11,500, sell for 27. Again, that was gone in a week. And then I kind of like this deal. I had 2 lots that I bought from this lady. My initial offer was 20K. She called me and was like, "Yeah, I like your offer. We can do that." And I'm looking at it on the GIS, and it says it's 5 acres, but it's definitely not 5 acres. So I'm looking at it and coming to the conclusion it's a half acre. So I went back and said, "Hey, I can do, probably like 6 grand for this lot and this other lot." Then come to find out that she said yes. Then come to find out that that other lot that was supposedly an acre was like a quarter of an acre. And I was like, all right, this deal's pretty much blown up, but I offered her 2 grand for the two, and she ended up saying yes. And I sold both of them like on market in a week for cumulative like 17 grand. So
Wow. That's a good ROI.
yeah, that was probably my favorite one so far.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. So if you looking back at like your last year, like, is there anything you would have changed? Obviously, a lot of learning lessons, stuff like that. But I mean, it's a successful first year. Like the first year with you're a profitable business, you're making money. I think you're in a really good position to scale. Is there anything you would change looking back?
Oh, a couple things. I would run a little bit leaner. Like you definitely got to have education, and then you need to find a mentor to learn from. 100%. So much value in that. Um, and I believed in that because I came from drop shipping where you buy a course, you learn. And like I saw how powerful that was. So I was all in on that too much and paid for too many coaching and too much courses and kind of blew some money on some stuff that was like not a good investment. I'll just say that. So I would recommend newer guys like pay attention to all the different course. Like you guys have a great course and you guys have great resources in your course, but really pay attention to like listen to them on their podcast and see if they know what they sound like they're talking. Like they know what they're talking about in comparison to other people. Talk to some people in the group, like get their experience, and then find that one mentor that you really want to follow and like do what they say, follow it to a T. Because there are 100 different things that work in land or in business, but if you're focused on trying to do it 10 different ways, you're not going to make very much progress. So find that one person you can put your trust in and like follow their system.
That's important as far as like having a connection with whoever it is. And like you said, like you want to have some belief that they are doing whatever they're talking about. And that's definitely changed a lot since we got into land. Like now it's like land is growing obviously, and there's a lot of people talking about it, which is great. Like it helps the industry for sure. But you definitely have to like I don't know. Just talk to people, listen to people. Like you said, long form podcasts are a great way to kind of hear. I think it's really important to like choose your niche coming in, right? Like not niche, but some people are like infill lots. I think what you did is great. Like you were looking for the same land all year. You adjusted marketing strategies, but it's not like you're like jumping all over the place in terms of like how you're gonna make money. It's just like how you're getting leads has changed over these 12 months. Nolan, are you someone who has goals set for 2026? Some people are goal people nowadays. Some people are like, I'm just going to try to make as much or do as much. What does that look like for 2026?
Yeah. My goals change all the time as I come to like um, learn what my real KPIs are. You kind of go on benchmarks based on what you hear out in the community, based on what other people are doing. That's kind of another lesson learned. It's hard to go off of other people's KPIs because everybody's business is different. Some people have like, hey, I'm going to spray a ton of volume out there and have a big team and just make money by doing a lot of volume on a low margin. Other people have, high margin, low volume businesses, and everybody's process is different. So my goal has moved a lot. Um, right now, my goal for 2026 would be to get up to 250 leads a month, which is basically going to get me to, I don't remember the exact number, I think like 160K, which would be comfortable for me to leave my W-2. And by the way, like other people shouldn't just take that and think that they would have similar numbers. I've had all very small deals with small spreads so far. So my margin has been small, and that's just been kind of how it's panned out. I would expect that over the next year, with learning more, I'm going to start pumping that up a little bit with, being able to maybe get like a minor subdivide here and there, or
Hmm.
just spot opportunities like that.
Yeah, I think that, and it's not like you're avoiding bigger properties, correct? Like it's just these are what the deals that have come about your marketing.
Yeah, so I mean, I've sent marketing depending on the market down to like a half acre up to 200 acres. I'm sending marketing to big properties. Like I've had a couple. I did get a contract with one gentleman on what I thought was going to be a really sweet 100-acre property, and he seemed like it seemed strange how quickly he said yes and how easy it was going, and then find out like next time I called him, he didn't remember, and I was like, okay, kind of a bummer. Guy had dementia, so
Oh, geez.
I'm sending the marketing. It just hasn't panned out yet.
Yeah, yeah, those come about, and they're not every month, every year deals, honestly, but one of those big deals can have a huge impact on your year, obviously. Anything else? Any other advice for someone looking to get in this business? You came from drop shipping, so you have an entrepreneur background. Um, any advice for people looking to get into land?
Yeah. So I already mentioned I would pick like one role model or person to follow. Really take some time to think through what marketing channel you want to use or might like. Like be really intentional about how that will fit in your schedule and what you can manage. And really give it some time before you jump. Like give it a good 3 or 6 months and understand that like mail is going to convert a lot quicker than um, cold calling where people who call off mail are calling in because they are pretty much already saying yes to your offer in their mind or at least ballpark, whereas cold callers are calling them out of the blue. So I would say that definitely track your KPIs, get some basic KPIs down like right away and start really paying attention to that because that feeds your entire business and like all your planning is going to revolve around your numbers there. And
That
then
makes a lot of
lastly, I would
sense.
just say like take consistent action, but take iterative action. Like do a little sprint, look back, see what worked, what didn't, make a minor adjustment. I don't recommend like if people come in with a decent, you know, cash reserve, I don't recommend just sending like 10,000 mailers right off the rip. Like send out a couple batches of like 2,000 mailers and learn from each mailer that goes out or just take smaller, iterative, and consistent action.
I like that a lot. So many people, I I always say like the people with a lot of money, like it's great coming into business with money, but like you can make a very costly mistakes. And some people are, I don't know, just less cautious with it, which sometimes it works out. But like you said, like just throwing money at something when you first get into it, it can lead to bad results. It can be demoralizing. It can make you think this business isn't for you. But Nolan, I really, really appreciate you coming on the podcast. I'm looking forward to seeing what 2026 holds for you. I think you have great momentum right now in your business. Getting that lead manager is obviously going to be huge for your business. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Thanks for having me.
If you guys are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. You can, I believe, Nolan is in our Discord channel. If you want to reach out to Nolan, I'm sure he's more than happy to answer questions. Hit the like button, subscribe, leave us a comment. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.